did this thing, how I made it four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. It is actually technically four-wheel drive. The front axle is out of a Cadillac Escalade, but the transfer case came out of a 2500 Chevy pickup. So it is selectable. I can actually put this in two-wheel drive, though the axles are always locked, so the front drive shaft will always be spinning. The front part of the frame used to belong to a 2002 Cadillac Escalade, and the way I kind of figured out how I was going to do this is I was looking at a lot of back half cars, and they use a bulkhead and then they narrow the frame after the bulkhead. So I thought, well, that's at the back of the car, but why can't I put the bulkhead at the front? So that's what I did. It's got a 2x8 cross member across the Escalade frame, and then I made it up the dissimilar frames on that bulkhead. So I had to notch it for the engine and tranny to go through, and I actually offset the frames by 1.5 inches in order, well, for one, it dropped it lower, and it also raised the engine and transmission up high enough that I could connect the bulkhead cross member.
Right, Austin, tell us about your Angina.
Well, the Angina is a factory 6-liter out of a 2500 Chevy pickup. It's stock bottom end, and I got it at a wreck truck, so I paid $800 for the whole truck and got the engine out of it.
Didn't this engine come out of like a truck from a gravel pit that like a crane or something fell on?
It was actually a conveyor fell on the truck.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look for some pictures of it.
And it was and it was flat.
Yeah,
like,
it was pretty flat. I'm actually glad the engine survived. So Don Mosier from Engine Technology in Cambridge went through the engine. He put new bearings in it, new rings, honed it out, made sure the decks are flat, and I threw a set of 823 heads, rectangle ports on it. So it's like an LS3 head, except for it doesn't have the hollow valves, but virtually the same. And it's running a Summit Stage 3 cam and BTR 660 springs, fuel injector clinic 1000cc injectors with the Holley high ram. The turbo's an 85mm VS Racing, and I'm using a Precision 44mm wastegate and trick manifold. And the blow-off valve is a VS Racing blow-off valve, which seems to actually work pretty good too. I haven't really got any road time on it, but from what I've done in the burnouts and stuff, everything seems to be working okay, which is great. The transmission that's in it is a four-wheel drive 4L80E, and it came out of a junk truck. We just threw the stock clutches back in with Jake's Performance Shift Kit, and I also put FTI 3800 torque converter in it. It's a single disc torque converter, so I'm probably not going to lock it up at wide open throttle, but it should work pretty good. I'm probably going to try locking it up once or twice. Hopefully nothing bad happens. The transfer case is a bone stock transfer case out of a 2500 truck. It's a selectable four-wheel drive with a manual thing. It doesn't have the manual shifter in it yet. I haven't made anything. I might use a parachute mount and a cable, but I haven't decided how I was going to do that. But anyways, so underneath the cab is all original to the C10, but from about here, well, not about here, from here back, I made my own frame rails. I raised them up 5.5 inches above where the factory C10 frame would be, so I didn't have to C-notch it. The suspension is a Welder Series, well, the suspension itself are Viking double adjustables, but the 4-link is a Welder Series 4-link. I made my own bars with TMR Customs bar ends, but I used Welder Series bushings and the bushing mounts. The fuel tank is just it's a Summit Racing 15-gallon cell with a MagnaFuel 750 pump. And I put a tip-over valve in the cell. The rear end's original to the Escalade, so I had to cut all the brackets off the Escalade rear end and weld my new brackets back on. And the rear end has Eaton True Track posi in it. Well, I guess it's not technically a posi, it's a True Track helical locker. It works really well, or they usually do anyways. Anybody that has them is usually pretty happy with them, so I think it'll do just fine. The brakes are SSBC brakes. They have 14-inch rotors, and they are made for NVS Chevy pickup. And the front brakes are actually from a 2020. So we'll get a better look at those anyways.
So what did you have to do to put these on the old Escalade spindles then?
So to put those on an Escalade spindle, all you have to do is put about a 1/4 inch, maybe even less, of a spacer in between the brake caliper mount and the spindle itself.
Kind of see from the back side there.
Thing is mad at you.
It is. I don't know how to use it real well, but
I don't either, so.
make sure you guys tell me that I'm a terrible cameraman.